Welcome to Trial by Wine. We take a closer look at crimes that highlight how fascinating humans can be. Schmitty, Swanee and Clarky visit crimes and run them through their jury of three, debating both sides of the case to agree an appropriate, if totally fictitious, sentence. Please be advised, Trial by Wine may include explicit or disturbing content and will include drunken rambling. Listener discretion is advised. All right. Well, it has been some time since we three have met. In fact, it's been about 5 weeks. How are we all?
Not too bad, thank you. It's nice to see you both, or all of you. Stu,
It's
you
been
as well,
a long
of course.
time.
Sorry.
Lovely to see you too. It feels like
When
an
I say we
eternity.
three, it's a collective noun.
Oh, okay, that's all right then.
It has. It's been very, very long. So what's been happening in that period of time?
Hands up if you've caught COVID.
Me.
Me.
Not me.
Aw, there's always one.
Who was first in chronological order? You, Clarky?
Me. I'm the winner
Yeah.
or the loser.
And I must be last because I've still
got.
got it. I'm still in isolation, about to come out in a couple of
Schmitty
days.
didn't
I'm
even
already
run
at
the
day
race.
10.
Day 10.
No.
Well, no, but I've been
Where's
dodging.
the commitment? Dodging
Oh,
COVID.
excuse me. I've been dodging. My niece, who lives with me, has had it
Yeah.
and has been in ISO. Although, let me clarify, she lives in the big house. I live in the bungalow outside, so I don't see us as household shares stuff.
And is it true that you've got Glen
and,
20 set up like a water cannon out the front of your house so that if anyone comes near you, you can just spray the fuck out of them with Glen 20?
Glen 20, that's right. Yes, that is true. Well, I would go so
Actual
far as to
fact.
say I've just avoided her like she's a leper, and the rest of the family too, because I'm still doing my show and didn't want to get sick.
Yeah.
And touch wood, I've managed to achieve that. That's me. What else has happened? Oh, yeah, I've got good news. I'm allowed to get my hip replaced.
That is great news.
Well, the specialist said, and I did laugh at the language, he said, you qualify. I was like, oh, that sounds really positive, except that I'm going to have a piece of me cut out, chopped away, sawn off, replaced, a year's rehab.
Wow.
Yeah, grouse. Anyway, it'll be fine,
Jeepers.
and it needs to be done because I am walking around like an old lady, which he said, you're walking around like an old lady. We need to deal with this.
Boom.
It's all about your quality of life, Caroline. I was like, oh.
Thanks for your positive
It
feedback,
feels
mate.
really uncomfortable. Yeah. Oh, he's a funny guy. Anyway. So
Forgive me, Schmitty, is it a hip replacement or an operation on your hip that I...
No, it's a hip replacement. So,
Okay. So
I've
it
got,
literally got a
yeah, I've
titanium
got,
piece in or something?
yeah,
Don't know.
probably.
Yeah.
I've got osteoarthritis and
Okay.
the right hip, they're both bad, but the
Yep.
right hip is at a point where it's bone on bone.
Oh,
And, yeah, hurts all the time. Chronic pain, can't sleep, can't walk much. I mean, I can walk, but if I turn my leg the wrong way. The other day I got a bit drunk and I was trying to
What?
work out whether I could
that's
still do a
obviously
car-
that's not the story, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Tony's always been carrying on
Newsflash.
about whether or not I can cartwheel again.
The
He's
other
always this
day,
thing
it was
about
like 2
cartwheeling.
days
So
ago
I thought-
instead of yesterday.
No, it was
That's
last
a
week, and I
newsflash.
had
Oh,
a
there
few
you go.
drinks after a show, and I'm on the stage, and I thought the last time I did cartwheel was on this stage. Let me see if I can do it again. And the answer is no, I can't.
Oh.
You are
I
a
found that
genius. Oh, that's a
I am
great
a
drunken
dickhead, is
story.
what
So you
meant
told the
to say,
doctor,
and you were
I can
right.
no longer cartwheel. I'm sure the doctor was impressed.
I didn't say anything
that's
of
the
the
benchmark.
sort.
That's the
I just
benchmark for a
thought,
hip replacement.
Yeah, I'll leave that one alone. Anyway, it hurt, and I thought, thank God I've had a nice cushion of alcohol, otherwise that would hurt a lot more. Anywho, so that's me in a nutshell, and we're COVID-y.
Yeah.
But we're all recovering, I think. Carla, I think,
Yes.
are you shedding? Are you technically shedding?
I must be, I think. So I was the last one in the house to get it. So I literally ran hotel COVID last week. My husband had given our children walkie-talkies and I was in charge of both housekeeping and room service and just ran around like a crazy woman trying to keep everybody not from contaminating others. But then once we all got it, it was a free-for-all. And then I just went right on the sofa and it was perfect. So the time I was sick, it was fine. So I can't complain.
It's like the old days when you used to have like a chickenpox party and all the
Yeah.
kids would have chickenpox at the same time because then they became immune to it.
Correct. I was going to say I
So-
didn't have to lick any door handles, but I mean, I probably would have got to that point where I thought, you know what? we've been in here long enough. I don't want to have to stay. I don't want to have to do all of this again some other time. But yeah,
Oh, it
I
just
got
made me think about blue
Anyway.
buses in the old days.
it.
Yeah.
Window liquor.
And Windows.
All right. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So that's us as a roundup. That's probably the shortest roundup we've had, even though it's been the longest period. What are we drinking today?
Oh, I'm very glad you asked. First up, I'm going to confess that we have had some technical issues. We haven't had them for a little while, so we're not as good as dealing with them as we used to be. So I'm on to my second. Schmitty's on to about her 84th. So just keep that in mind towards the end of the podcast. So
Forgive me already. Forgive me already.
Yeah, because it's going to get a bit ugly. But we're having a Pizzini Pinot Grigio. All Saints Pinot Grigio.
Delicious.
Sorry, my mistake.
From Rutherglen.
From Rutherglen. Oh, and there's my little dog named Pino barking in the background. Shut your face, we're podcasting.
It's all going off.
She doesn't get it.
What you say? Shut your face.
Shut your face, we're podcasting. But she never understands.
Shut your face, Pino.
Well, she's forgotten how we do it. It's been a long time, and dogs don't have great short-term memories.
Yeah, she'll come.
And Swanee, what are you drinking?
Oh, a little COVID La Coca. That's about it. Just a little bit of Coke.
I'm drinking the
Surprise,
COVID La Coca. Is that a Ricky Martin song?
La COVID La Coca. Yes. Oh, do you know what I did see the other day? When we were singing about Khalees recently, her husband passed away.
Oh, that's a shame.
I know. It was really sad. I was like, I haven't
You
seen
must
her
be
in the
very
press.
young.
Well, he wasn't very old. He died of stage 4 cancer. It's awful. And I was like, oh my goodness, we've just been talking about the beautiful Khalees recently. And I was like,
Did she meet him in the yard?
So I should have.
Is that how they met? Her milkshake brought all the boys to the yard and she chose him? Surely.
I guess it probably was.
Yeah.
It would have to have been, yes.
I think that was a song off her second album.
That's the trial by wine version of events anyway.
Yep.
My milkshake brings my husband to the yard. And he's like, it's better than yours.
Better than yours.
I'll put a ring on that.
Damn right. And what are you drinking, Schmitty?
I'm back on my old favourite, vodka cruiser, sugar-free, mango raspberries, because they go down a treat.
They sound like a lolly. Mango raspberry.
They do sound like a lolly,
and they taste like one, too.
Oh.
Oh, goodness.
All right, so should we introduce ourselves?
Can we?
I'm Schmitty.
I'm Swanee.
And I'm Clarky. And together we are Trial by Wine.
Who's got a story for us today?
Oh, wow. Well, I was just going to suggest, would you like to hear a tale of fun and laughter and happy times back in the 1960s?
I would love to, but I bet that's not what you're about to do.
Yes.
I can deliver. Yeah, I can deliver on the time, but not the rest of it. So it isn't a good story.
Okay.
So the challenge for you two is to make it a story that is somewhat humorous so that we get away from just the trauma of it all. But, that's what we like to do. So first up, challenge accepted?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
Do you need to brace yourselves? Click that seatbelt in, or are you good to go?
Put my seatbelt in. That's right. I have my metaphorical seatbelt because I'm back in the kitchen.
Okay.
Yep. I'm Carla's doing the brace position. We're ready to go.
So this story is the...
Oh my God. I can't tell you. I'm sorry. I'm just going to say, I'm so excited. I've so missed doing this.
All right.
I'm so excited.
Just take it.
I've missed you guys. I love you.
We'll just take a couple of breaths and maybe a glass of water.
I've missed this. Okay, good advice. Okay.
This is the story of Sylvia Likens. And I won't go too much into it, but I will give you the first thing, my source, Wikipedia, literally one source subject. So well done, me. But
Don't worry, you're not getting a mark on it, so it's fine. I'm not going to go through your bibliography at the end.
There's nothing like having a 5 or 6 week break and coming up with a one source story. That's commitment. But I will start the story by stating that Wikipedia notes that this story is widely regarded by Indiana citizens as the worst crime ever committed in their state, and has been described by a senior investigator in the Indianapolis Police Department as the most sadistic case he had ever investigated in the 35 years he served with the Indianapolis Police.
Goodness
Gross.
gracious.
Okay.
Does that excite you?
Sounds
Does it get
promising.
your juices flowing?
I'm just having a look at where Indiana is. Indiana typical? Is that Midwest? Is that what we call that?
Yeah, I think it
think
is.
Next to
Yeah.
Illinois, it's above Kentucky and next to Ohio.
Yeah. Let's
Does
go.
that mean
Let's go
Midwest,
that then.
I love that you're bringing the geography to us.
I need the geography. I need to places underneath. Yeah, all right.
Okay, well,
Got
I'm
it.
going to name a few places. Please don't feel like you need to Google them all. Let's just stick with the one.
Sorry,
Otherwise,
I'll
this
let
could
you
go
with
on
it.
for
Sorry.
quite some time. Anyway, I'm going to start with Gertrude, and I'm going to mispronounce her surname just because that's what I do. But her surname is Baniszewski, maybe. She was Polish. And, Schmitty, I know that we don't have this at the minute, but I'd like to include some villain music because she is 100% the villain.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, what's villain music sound like?
All right, well, you keep talking while I look at some villain
Okay.
music. Villain music. I'll look
Okay.
it up. You keep
Okay.
going, and I'll find some villain music, and then I will inappropriately insert it at some point.
Okay.
I know I'm not supposed to interrupt, but at this point, it's where I think Schmitty really needs to have an organ or some kind of piano next to her where she can improv on these moments and she can play the movement. So it's like she's got a full sound desk,
Yes.
a keyboard next to her, the whole studio, and she's
Yes.
just riffing
A little
on
bit
it.
of-
It's like,
Or Peter and the Wolf. Do you remember that? I reckon we could do a bit of Peter and the Wolf.
yeah. Peer Gynt.
Oh, well, da 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 da
No,
da
but it's
da
gotta
da
be the wolf.
da 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 da
It's got to be
da.
the wolf, not that.
Oh, Peter and the Wolf.
Yeah, there's...
What's the difference? I know what
Yeah,
Peter
no,
and
so
the
every
Wolf-
time the
Shit.
wolf is mentioned,
Yeah, no,
it brings
it
on
is-
the wolf music.
Oh.
Okay, hang on. I'm working on it. Keep chatting. I'll
okay, you're on
see
it?
what I got.
Shut amongst
Yeah,
yourselves.
I can't believe you just went Sergei Prokofiev.
I didn't do that.
I can't even say his name. That's the five. Yeah, Peter and the Wolf.
Yeah, but you said Sergei
Anyway.
like I know who that is.
Yeah, I just
Sergei Prokofiev wrote Peter and the
Prokofiev.
Wolf.
Oh, of
Prock
course
off
he did.
yourself,
I didn't know
mate.
that.
Okay. Oh goodness!
Should we
Right.
continue, or did you find
Anyway,
something?
I'll do what I can for villain
This
music.
wine's lovely.
So Gertrude Baniszewski was our villain. She was born in Indianapolis, Indiana, to Hugh Marcus Van Fossen Sr. and Molly Myrtle, both of whom were originally from Illinois and were of American and Dutch descent. Have you Googled them, Carla? No? Okay. She was the third of 6 children and her family was working class. On October the 5th, 1939, Baniszewski saw her 50-year-old father die from a sudden heart attack. 6 years later, she dropped out of high school at age 16 to marry 18-year-old John Stefan Baniszewski, who was originally from Youngsville, Pennsylvania, and was of Polish ancestry. Apologies to all of our Polish listeners who are probably scratching their ears out at my pronunciation, but you know, it's the best I could do. And she had 4 children with him. Although John Baniszewski had a violent temper and occasionally beat his wife, the two would remain together for 10 years prior to their first divorce. Yes, that's right, first divorce. Following her divorce, Baniszewski married a man named Edward Guthrie. This marriage lasted just 3 months before the couple divorced. Shortly thereafter, Baniszewski remarried her first husband, bearing him 2 more children. The couple divorced for the second time in 1963. How lovely.
Sure, her name's not Elizabeth Taylor.
Well, no, because she's a villain. Elizabeth Taylor's not a villain.
Yeah, true.
So, yeah, weeks after her third divorce, Baniszewski began a relationship with a 22-year-old named Dennis Lee Wright, who also physically abused her. She had 1 child with Wright, Dennis Lee Wright Jr.
Okay.
Such a good name, though, Why waste it?
Why bother? Why be imaginative?
Oh, no, right? God. Anyway, shortly after the birth of his son...
Dennis Lee Wright II didn't have the same ring.
That's right.
Junior!
And
Junior!
it could be the 7th, because they could be like, my daddy was Dennis Lee Wright, my granddaddy was Dennis Lee Wright, my great-granddaddy.
Apologies to our American audience. Anyway.
Yes, indeed. Apologies, both for my bad accent and my probably disapproval of the word junior.
Stereotyping.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Shortly after the birth of his son, Wright abandoned Baniszewski. Shortly thereafter, Baniszewski filed a paternity suit against Wright for financial support of their children, although Wright was seldom able to pay for the upkeep of their son. In 1965, Baniszewski lived alone with her 7 children: Paula, Stephanie, John, Marie, Shirley, James, and Dennis Lee Wright. Although 36 years old and 5 feet inches in height, she weighed only 100 pounds, 45 kilograms, and has been described as a haggard, underweight, asthmatic chain smoker suffering from depression due to the stress of 3 failed marriages, a failed relationship, and a recent miscarriage. That's a nice description, isn't it?
I think it's because she had 7 kids.
Oh, and 3 abusive husbands, one of them twice. In addition to the sporadic checks she received from her first husband, a former Indianapolis policeman who she primarily relied financially to support her children, Baniszewski occasionally performed odd jobs for neighbours and acquaintances, such as sewing or cleaning, in order to earn money.
I didn't think that's what you were going to say then.
No, I thought odd.
I thought you were going to say odd jobs. I was like,
she's not Sada Abe.
A little bit on the side, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
She went to prostitution.
She didn't go to the geisha house.
I know I look a bit haggard, but same old, same old.
But,
okay, well,
but I do appreciate where you're going, because
Yeah.
there are certain themes that we uncover through these. Okay, so that's the villain,
Of course.
and clearly she's had a tough upbringing. Well, maybe not a tough upbringing, a tough early adulthood.
Yeah.
So Sylvia Likens is the one who this story focuses on. So Sylvia Marie Likens was the 3rd of 5 children born to carnival workers Lester Cecil Likens and his wife Elizabeth Betty Francis. She was born between 2 sets of fraternal twins, Daniel and Diana, 2 years older than she, and Benny and Jenny, 1 year younger. I love twins called Benny and Jenny. Jenny Likens suffered from polio, causing one of her legs to be weaker than the other. She was afflicted with a notable limp and had to wear a steel brace on one leg. Lester and Elizabeth's marriage was unstable. They often sold candy, beer, and soda at carnival stands around Indiana through the summer, moving frequently and regularly experiencing severe financial difficulties. The Likens sons regularly travelled with them in order to assist with their job, but Sylvia and Jenny were discouraged from doing the same out of concern for their safety and education. As a result, both sisters frequently stayed with their relatives, often their grandmother. In her teenage years, Sylvia Likens occasionally earned spending money by babysitting, running errands, or performing ironing chores for friends and neighbours, often giving her mother part of her earnings. She'd been described as a friendly, confident, and lively girl with long, wavy, light brown hair extending below her shoulders, and was known as Cookie to her friends. Although exuberant, Likens always kept her mouth closed when smiling due to a missing front tooth, which she'd lost while roughhousing with one of her brothers during a childhood game. I love the word roughhousing.
Roughhousing or horseplay?
Definitely.
Roughhousing.
Roughhousing. No horses around. It's not, what's his name at the bottom of the pool? Underwater Stone.
Brian Jones.
That's him.
Yeah.
Yes.
The horses definitely did it.
He was he was a victim of horseplay. She also had a fondness for music, in particular the Beatles. There's the connection. And was notably protective of her markedly more timid and insecure younger sister. On several occasions, the 2 sisters would visit a local skating rink where Sylvia would help Jenny skate by holding her hand while Jenny skated on her unaffected foot. That's nice. By June 1965, Sylvia and Jenny resided with their parents in Indianapolis. On the 3rd of July, their mother was arrested and subsequently jailed for shoplifting. Shortly thereafter, Lester Likens arranged for his daughters to board with, here we go, Gertrude Baniszewski, the mother of Paula and Stephanie, whom the sisters had recently become acquainted with while studying at Arsenal Technical High School. At the time of this boarding agreement, Gertrude assured Lester she would care for his daughters until his return as if they were her own children. Does anyone smell a rat?
Well, no, because the last rat I killed, I took out of the gutter, so I don't smell it anymore. Anyway.
So shortly after the July the 4th holiday, the sisters moved in with Gertrude and her children in order for their father and later their mother to travel to the East Coast with the carnival. The understanding that Gertrude would receive weekly boarding fees of $20 to care for their daughters until they returned to collect Sylvia and Jenny in November of that year. So $20 doesn't sound like a lot, but just to put it into some context, the monthly rent for the home they were living in was $55. So not too shabby. During the initial weeks in which Sylvia and Jenny resided at the Baniszewski household, the sisters were subjected to very little discipline or abuse. Likens regularly sang along to pop records with Stephanie, and she willingly participated in housework at the Baniszewski residence. Both girls also regularly attended Sunday school with the Baniszewski children, with the pastor commending Sylvia's piety.
What does that mean?
Well, pious is, religious,
Yeah.
behaving well, not doing the naughty things.
Just being aware religiously as well, I guess. Something
Maybe
that.
like one of the
Perfect
Von
different than just saying
Trapps.
you're a good kid. It's a separate situation.
Not doing anything anti what is taught.
Yeah.
You know, so
Following the
not
rules
shagging
and-
around, following the
Yeah,
rules,
got
following
it.
the rules.
Yep.
Yeah.
Alrighty, this is where our story is going to take
Here
a
we
turn.
go.
Yeah,
Buckle
exactly.
up. Here we go.
Strap it in.
Full racing
Don't
harness,
strap it
please.
on like, what was her name? Kai Fortune.
Yeah.
God. Anyway,
Kai Fortune.
let's don't
Around your
strap
waist
it
with
on
the
like
crime.
Kai Fortune. Strap it in like Schmitty podcasting in her car. Although Lester Likens had agreed to pay Gertrude Baniszewski $20 a week in exchange for the care of his daughters, after approximately 2 weeks, these payments failed to consistently arrive upon the prearranged dates, occasionally arriving 1 or 2 days late. What would you do if a payment ended up coming through 1 or 2 days late? I know you're not in this situation, but
Beat the shit out of the kids.
Well, I don't know. My tenants in the UK never pay their rent.
Do you abuse them?
No, I've got to. I try and get my agents to abuse them for me, but that doesn't work
Well,
either.
I think you're about to find out what you could do as an alternative.
Yeah, what could I do?
What would you suggest?
I'll send you
Well,
through some of
what
my
do you
notes
think?
as to how
What does Gertrude?
Chuck
What
it
does
if you had a
Gertrude
Cert
do?
3 in Gertrude, this is what you would do.
WWG. What would Gertrude
Yeah,
do?
exactly. In response,
WWG.
Gertrude began
What would
venting
Gertrude
her
do?
frustration at this fact upon the sisters by beating their bare buttocks with various instruments, such as a 1/4 inch thick paddle, making statements such as, "Well, I took care of you 2 little bitches for a week for nothing." It's, I rented you.
This sounds like my
Bitch.
parents.
Right, okay.
This is from the Swanee playbook. We're going to have to extend from here. I do all of this. Nobody cares. Nobody does what they're told, and I do it for nothing.
I think you're going to retract
Yeah.
that soon.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yes,
okay.
whatever. Let's see where she goes from here.
So on one
shall we?
occasion in late August, both girls were beaten
Oh.
approximately 15 times on the back with the aforementioned paddle after Paula, who is the daughter, had accused the sisters of eating too much food at a church supper the household children had attended. By mid-August 1965,
Nasty bitch.
Gertrude had begun to focus her abuse almost
Like
exclusively upon Sylvia, with her primary motivation likely being jealousy of her physical appearance and potential in life. According to subsequent...
She's pretty, I take it, and smart.
So
She
she's not.
was pretty.
Yeah, she's not the one who had.
No,
Polio?
so Jenny had polio.
No.
Sylvia
Oh,
was the
it's
sister.
She's
Yeah,
one who looked
yeah.
after. That's right. yeah.
So, according to
yeah.
subsequent trial testimony, this abuse was initially inflicted on Sylvia after she and Jenny had returned to the Baniszewski residence, as well as on weekends. This initial abuse included subjecting Likens to beatings and starvation, forcing her to eat leftovers or spoiled food out of garbage cans. On one occasion, Likens was accused of stealing candy she had actually purchased. Again, not
Oh,
not the
Jesus.
worst, but you can see
It's not
you can see a
cool.
pattern
Not
coming.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. On another occasion,
Yeah.
in late August, Likens was subjected to humiliation when she claimed to have a boyfriend in Long Beach, whom she had met in the spring of 1965 when her family lived in California. In response to hearing this, Gertrude asked if she had ever done anything with a boy, to which Likens, unsure of her meaning, replied, "I guess so," and explained she'd gone skating with boys there and had once gone to a park on the beach with them. Continuing the conversation with Stephanie and Jenny, Likens mentioned that she had once laid under the covers with her boyfriend. Upon hearing this, Gertrude asked, "Why did you do that, Sylvia?" Likens replied, "I don't know," and shrugged. Several days later, Gertrude returned to the subject with Likens telling her, "You're certainly getting big in the stomach, Sylvia. It looks like you're going to have a baby." Likens thought Gertrude was kidding with her and said, "Yeah, sure, he's getting big, but I'm just going to have to go on a diet." So she had no idea, really, of how babies are made. And
Yeah. She wasn't thinking anything
yeah,
about it.
and
Yeah.
however, Gertrude then informed her and the other girls in the house that whenever they did something with a boy, they would be sure to have a baby.
That's only because Gertrude.
Based on Gertrude's
Yeah,
truth.
Correct.
That's
That's because Gertrude had a baby every time she looked twice at a man. Filthy slut.
So
Anyway, sorry, I just slut shamed. Moving on.
she then kicked Likens in the genitals. Paula, herself 3 months pregnant at the time, and also jealous of Likens' physical appearance, then participated in attacking Likens, knocking her off the chair and onto the kitchen floor, shouting, "You ain't fit to sit in the chair." So now we've got mother and daughter starting. On another occasion, as the family ate supper, Gertrude, Paula, and a neighbour boy named Randy Gordon Lepper force-fed Likens a hot dog overloaded with condiments.
Randy Lepper.
Right. Oh, stop it.
Randy Lepper.
I force feed myself stuff overloaded with condiments.
And that's how you get a bag of
Is that
dicks.
really a torturous?
A Randy Lepper?
Is that like too much mayo? Is that torture?
Well,
A man called Randy Lepper force-fed
Force-fed me
dog.
too much.
overloaded condiment.
I had too much
condiment-heavy
tomato sauce.
hot dog.
Sorry, I feel like you didn't look far enough into that one.
well, yes, no.
I'm sure this is a really terrible situation.
But that's why I have you two to pull me up and point out the humour. Actually, though, if
Randy Lepper.
if I'm having a hot dog, it's a good point. How many condiments are too many? Because I do like a fair bit of mustard and
cheese,
I
mustard
don't know,
sauce.
but next time you have one, it's got too many on it. You'll go, "Oh my god, did Randy Lepper do this?
Force-fed
This
by
is
a
too
Randy
much."
Lepper.
It's a Randy Lepper dog.
Also,
It's a Randy Lepper
Seriously,
dog.
my
Too much.
sister used to call me the condiment queen. I could eat a sandwich just with condiments in it. I didn't eat anything else.
Randy
Tomato sauce, mayonnaise, butter.
That-
Who needs anything else in it? It's just delicious.
Exactly.
How is that a problem?
well, you know how little Frankfurts here get the nickname of little boys? It kind of feels like Randy Lepper had his penis
Yes.
fall off because he's a leper and put it in the hot dog bun
Oh, exactly.
and then put all the condiments in. Eat a
Ew.
hot dog bun with dicks.
Yeah, that's a hot dog no one wants. Yeah.
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 So anyway,
I'm hearing
understandably,
it. A leprosy-laced dick. No, thanks.
so understandably, after having just explored that a little too far, Likens vomited and was later forced to consume what she had regurgitated. That's not okay.
Oh, fuck off.
Yeah, that's not okay.
No, that's not okay. I mean, all the condiments in the world are fine, but making me eat my own sick is not okay.
Correct. Or a Randy Lepper's
Calling time on that shit.
lepified
A Randy Lepper
genitals. in what was
Gross.
Likens' only act of retaliation, she is alleged to have spread a rumour at Arsenal Technical High School that Stephanie and Paula Banaszewski were prostitutes. She supposedly did this because she was upset with the household singling her out for similar accusations. Fair enough.
When you say the only act of
A retaliation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Across the whole story, across everything that's happening to this girl
Yeah.
in perpetuum.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
that is so
And we're
awful.
not even at the bad stuff yet.
So she's a nice girl, a really nice.
She's a very nice girl. That's exactly right. Yeah. No, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
So it all it's an incredible story about her being so lovely, and the
And it was the worst thing she could think of, and just did it once and probably felt bad about it. Yeah.
Yeah, but also, Gertrude had kicked her in the genitals saying this, and Paula had pushed her off the chair and all that. So, they'd made the same jokes about her. So, anyway, so whilst at school,
Gertrude needed to eat a bag of dicks.
and a band of Randy leopard dicks. Um, whilst at school, Stephanie, who's also the daughter, Paula's sister, was jokingly propositioned by a boy who told her that Likens had started this rumour about her. Upon returning home that day, Stephanie questioned Likens about the rumour and she admitted to starting it. Stephanie punched her in response, but Likens apologised to her in tears, and Stephanie then also began to cry. So Stephanie is not the evilest one in this group, but she does have a role. However, when Stephanie's boyfriend, 15-year-old Coy Randolph Hubbard, now the Coy is not an adjective here, Coy is his first name, so Coy Randolph Hubbard heard of the rumour.
Oh, you said
it
Coy.
shy?
Coy Randolph Hubbard. No, it's Coy Randolph Hubbard. Everyone's got three names. It's interesting. Heard of the rumour, he brutally attacked Likens, slapping her, banging her head against the wall, and flipping her backwards onto the floor. When Gertrude found out, she used the paddle to beat Likens. What's that now? We're up to Gertrude, Paula, Stephanie, and Coy.
Going to completely victimise one person. We're not going to support her in any way.
But also we're up to 4 people now who have abused her, if we don't include Randy Lepper. On another occasion, Paula beat Likens about the face with such force that she broke her own wrist, having primarily focused her blows upon Likens' teeth and eyes. Later, Paula used the cast on her wrist to further beat Likens. Gertrude repeatedly falsely accused Likens of promiscuity and of engaging in prostitution, delivering rants to Likens regarding the filthiness of prostitution and women in general. Gertrude would later occasionally force Jenny to strike her own sister, beating Jenny if she did not comply. So there's number 5, again excluding Randy. We should probably say number 6.
Yeah, but Jenny was coerced and beaten into it.
Correct. Yeah. No, I'm not saying Jenny's the problem here. I'm just saying that there's a group of people.
Gertrude's totally the problem.
Correct.
Yeah. I get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
You're about to talk about a whole bunch of fuckers who were just horrendous. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
So Coy Hubbard and several of his classmates frequently
I'm picking up what
visited...
you're putting down there, Clarky.
You are indeed, and I'm putting it down, and you're picking it up just as quick. So Coy Hubbard and several of his classmates frequently visited the Baniszewski residence to both physically and verbally torment Likens, often collaborating with Baniszewski's children and
I really
Gertrude
feel like we have
herself.
to get straight to fucking judgment
I
here.
think,
but anyway.
Yeah. So hold my
I'm kidding,
beer
but I'm ready.
Because whilst the judge,
I know.
You ain't
the sentences you want to pass will only get worse.
Okay.
With the active encouragement of Gertrude, these neighbourhood children routinely beat Likens, sometimes using her as a practice dummy in violent judo sessions, lacerating her body, burning her skin with lit cigarettes in excess of 100 times, and severely injuring her genitals. I mean, what the fuck? To entertain Gertrude and her teenage accomplices, Likens was forced at one point to strip naked in the family living room and masturbate with a glass Pepsi Cola bottle in their presence, with Gertrude stating to all present that this act of humiliation was for Sylvia to prove to Jenny what kind of a girl you are. Gertrude eventually forbade Likens from attending school after she confessed to having stolen a gym suit from the school due to Gertrude having refused to purchase the clothing for her. For this act of theft, Gertrude whipped Likens with a 3-inch wide police belt. Gertrude then switched her conversation to the evils of premarital sex before repeatedly kicking Likens in the genitals as Stephanie rallied to Likens'
But
defense.
post-marital sex is fine, even if you push out 7 fucking kids that you can't look after.
We'll also understand that number 7 was premarital for Gertrude. So, a fair bit of hypocrisy going on here.
Oh, even better. Even
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah.
This is one of those episodes where you just make me angrier and angrier.
Yep, this is exactly one of those episodes. So Stephanie rallied to Likens' defense, shouting she didn't do anything. So, Stephanie is, while she's part of the family and while she has done a little bit of stuff wrong, she's actually in a position where she feels like she needs to stand up for her. So good on you, Stephanie. Gertrude then burned Likens' fingertips with matches before further whipping her. A few days later, Jesus. Gertrude repeatedly whipped Jenny with the police belt after she reportedly stole a single tennis shoe from the school to wear on her strong foot. So she's not looking after them to the point where they're stealing stuff and then she's punishing them for it. The Likens siblings were fearful of notifying either family members or adults at their school of the increasing incidents of abuse and neglect they were enduring.
I was just going to ask, where are their parents? Why are they not
they're kind
going
of
to their
carny
parents?
folk.
Well, I'm not blaming the kids.
No, you're not blaming the kids. That's right. So the parents...
You're not calling them on a mobile, no.
The parents left them with Gertrude because Gertrude, remember, had said she was going to... they don't do any check-ins.
I know it's the 60s,
but also she said she was going to look after them like her own daughter.
Look after them like they're her own children. At what point is she beating her own children in the same way? Why are her own children not getting smashed?
Yeah.
I mean, I know why, but it's still... Anyway.
Because Gertrude is a big bully who has found someone that she wants to continually
victimize.
Bully.
Yeah.
So they were fearful of notifying anyone because of the fear of worsening the situation. And, that's not an uncommon reaction, I think, for anyone in a domestic violence case.
Yeah.
Jenny, in particular, struggled against the urge to notify family members as she had been threatened by Gertrude that she would herself be abused and tortured to the same degree as her sister if she did so. Jenny was also subjected to bullying by girls in her neighbourhood, in addition to occasionally being ridiculed or beaten whenever she alluded to Sylvia's situation. To your point now, Schmitty, in July and August, both Lester and Elizabeth Likens would occasionally return to Indianapolis to visit their daughters, whenever their travel schedule afforded them the opportunity. The last occasion Lester and Elizabeth visited their daughters was October the 5th. So there's a few months there where they've tried to catch up with them. On this occasion, neither girl exhibited any visible signs of distress about their mistreatment to their parents. This was likely because both were in the presence of Gertrude and her children. Almost immediately after Lester and Elizabeth had left the Baniszewski household, on the final visit, Gertrude turned to face Likens and said, "What are you going to do now, Sylvia? Now they're gone." On one occasion in September, both girls encountered their older sister, Diana Shoemaker, at a local park. Both Jenny and Sylvia informed Diana about the abuse they were enduring at the hands of the caregiver, adding that Sylvia was being specifically targeted for physical abuse and almost always for things she had neither said nor done. Neither sister mentioned the actual address where they resided, and initially Diana believed the sisters must be exaggerating their claims regarding the scope of mistreatment.
Nobody cares.
Several weeks.
It was the 60s.
Several weeks.
No, it's not an excuse, but people didn't care about kids like they do now.
So several weeks prior to this, Sylvia and Jenny had encountered Diana in the same park while in the company of 11-year-old Marie Baniszewski, and Sylvia had been given a sandwich to eat when she mentioned to her sister that she was hungry. Likens remained silent about the matter, although Marie revealed the fact to her family in late September. In response, Gertrude accused Likens of engaging in gluttony before she and Paula choked and bludgeoned her. The pair then subjected Likens to a scalding bath in order to cleanse her of sin.
Fucking hell.
With Gertrude grabbing Likens' hair and repeatedly banging her head against the bath to revive her whenever she fainted.
She's being starved to death.
Well, no, she's fainting because she's in such a hot bath. And so she's then having her head banged against the bath to wake up. Shortly after this incident, the father of a neighbourhood boy named Michael John Munro phoned Arsenal Technical High School to anonymously report that a girl with open sores across her entire body was living at the Banaszewski household. As Likens had not attended school for several days, a school nurse visited East New York Street to investigate these claims. Schmitty, I just feel like this is something that you will know how to deal with if you're Gertrude. So the nurse comes knocking. What do you reckon Gertrude says? Well, you just know shit about weirdos.
She's not home.
Well,
She's not home right now.
there was that.
She's not home. She's just
What
got
about
a
the open
period.
sores? What do you reckon? How do you reckon she described them?
She got bitten by a few mosquitoes and scratched them too much. I don't know. I'm grasping.
Right.
I'm grasping.
So then I know you're good at.
Because I wouldn't actually know what to say.
Yeah, which adds evidence to my theory that you actually have made soap from opera singers before. But clearly you haven't taught your children.
Said.
No, because remember you knew how to render the fat and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, you knew a lot about that,
Clarky.
so it made me think that you were guilty of similar instances.
I know a lot of disturbing
but you're not
shit.
guilty of this.
I'm not actually a psychopath.
Well, you're not guilty of this, is all I'm prepared to say.
I'm not a psychopath. I promise you.
So if you were one, you would say to the nurse that Likens had run away from her home the previous week and that she was unaware of her actual whereabouts. So you kind of got that bit right.
Oh, it's close. Close.
Adding that Likens,
Yeah. Okay.
Adding that Likens was out of control and that her open sores were a result of Likens' refusal to maintain decent personal hygiene.
Hygiene. Right. Yeah, okay. That's just bullshit, but okay. Yep.
See you next.
You've got to be pretty filthy to get to an open sore, in my experience.
In your experience, Carla.
I mean, not had a shower for a couple of days, but a couple of occasions. I've never gone to an open sore situation.
Yeah.
I'm not trying hard enough, obviously.
Greasy hair, maybe, but not an open sore.
Maybe I was on the cusp.
Exactly.
Oh, absolutely.
Lucky you didn't have Gertrude for a mum then.
And a bit stinky. Like, you might be a bit ripe and you might have some greasy hair, but open sores after a week is bullshit.
So Gertrude further claimed that Likens was a bad influence on both her own children and her sister. The school made no further investigations concerning Likens' welfare. It's like, oh yeah, man, that sounds right. Let's catch ya. You have yourself a good night.
Yeah, well, kids had a rough trot in the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s.
Schmitty, the hard thing about listening about this is there's stuff going on like this everywhere still, and there's a lot.
Yeah.
There's another story recently in the UK. I think the little girl's name's Star, and it's this same thing where you go, it's like a catalogue of errors where people have
How could this have happened?
Oh, yeah. Well, they told me she'd run away. Oh, okay, but someone had told you that there was a problem with someone with open sores, and it's just going to get worse from here, isn't it?
Well, it is. But I will point out that people like myself who work in a certain field are required by law to report anything that we think is suspected child abuse. So I'm not saying that's going to solve the problem, but I do think that a lot of people are much more empowered
absolutely.
To call shit out that they might not have felt like they could have done in the olden days.
Yeah.
And I'm in no way justifying this. This is just neglect on so many levels. Yeah. And neglect is such a pissant word for what we're talking about here.
But it was of the time, you're right.
Yeah.
I'm impressed that the guy. I'm
But
impressed that
also-
the man actually came forward and said something. To be perfectly honest, I thought everyone would just ignore it.
Anonymously, but yeah.
But how bad was it that someone felt the need to report it? Someone who would, like, even we just talked about cultural context, and in that period, no one would have said anything. How bad must it have been
Yeah.
Must it have been?
that this
Yeah.
kid
Yeah.
said, "I've got to say something," and no
Yeah.
one did anything about it. No one.
Yeah.
Well, in fairness to the nurse, she showed up.
They
but-
did.
oh,
Yeah. But
fuck.
Gertrude was.
A manipulative
Yes.
bitch who told a good story, but still. Anyway, keep going.
Yes.
God, you do a
I,
good job of creating so much fury in me. Anyway, keep going.
I do enjoy your raw
Isn't
reactions.
that whole show
I think
Stoking the
it's,
fire. Yeah.
This whole show is
Yeah.
about how much Clarky can wind Schmitty up. Anyway, go on. And then how calm and cool Carla
Carla
is.
being
Oh,
the mediator.
Swanee's like,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it's okay. Anyway, I'm going to say something smart now to calm you all down. Anyway, moving right along.
Quick, cause a distraction. They're
I think
getting
I
angry again.
I think I just nailed the dynamic of our show. Anyway, going on.
So, the immediate neighbours of the Baniszewski family were a middle-aged couple named Raymond and Phyllis Vermillion. Both initially viewed Gertrude as an ideal caregiver for the Likens sisters, and both had visited the Baniszewski residence on 2 occasions, while the girls had been under Gertrude's care. On both occasions, however, the Vermillions witnessed Paula physically abusing Likens, who on both occasions had a black eye, and openly boasting about her mistreatment of the child to them. So Paula's given her a black eye and boasts to the neighbours about it. This is how messed up the whole situation is. The kids are doing the wrong thing,
Right.
but they're obviously feeling so comfortable about it because of Gertrude that
emboldened his
they
mum's doing
talk
it,
to
yeah.
the neighbours about it. Like, what? Excuse me.
I've
Upon
got
the
a
second
whole
visit to the
fucking bag
Baniszewski
of black eyes
household,
for you, Paula.
yeah, eat a bag of black
Anyway.
eyes, Paula.
That's not where I thought the bag I thought you were going to give it, but anyway.
Yeah, I know. I just thought I'd mix it up a little bit.
Black-eyed peas.
I know every time someone goes
Black-eyed
for every time you
penises?
reach for a bag, I think I know what sort
Oh.
of bag you're going to grab.
Eat a bag of black-eyed dicks. Upon their second visit to the Baniszewski household, both observed Likens to appear extremely meek and somewhat zombified in nature. Nevertheless, the Vermillions never reported Likens' evident mistreatment to the authorities. On or about October the 1st, Diana Shoemaker discovered that her sisters were temporarily residing at the Baniszewski residence. She visited the property in an attempt to initiate regular contact. By the way, she's the one who they ran into at the park, just in case you've forgotten. She's their sister.
She's their older sister.
Yeah.
She's Jenny and
Okay,
Sylvia's
yep.
sister. Yeah, but they
Yeah,
ran
okay.
into her at the park and then she dismissed everything. So she visited the property in an attempt to initiate regular contact. Gertrude, however, refused Diana entrance to her property, stating that she had received permission from their parents not to allow either of the girls to see her. She then ordered Diana off her property. Approximately 2 weeks later, Diana encountered Jenny by chance close to the home and inquired as to Sylvia's welfare. She was informed, "I can't tell you or I'll get into trouble."
I really think Diana needs to sort of up the ante a little bit.
Your timing is spot on, but somewhat misinterpreted. So this next bit is titled Escalation. Due to the increase in the frequency and brutality of the torture and mistreatment Likens was subjected to, she gradually became incontinent. This is going to be hard to read out.
Fuck off.
Yeah, I know, right? I know. Anyway, I'm trying to push through because it's bad. She was denied any access to the bathroom, being forced to wet herself. As a form of punishment for her incontinence on October the 6th, Gertrude threw Likens into the basement and tied her up. Here, Likens was often kept naked, rarely fed, and frequently deprived of water. Occasionally, she was tied to the railing of the basement stairs with her feet barely touching the ground. In the weeks prior to locking Likens in the family basement, Gertrude had increasingly abused and tormented Likens. She would occasionally falsely claim to the children in the household that either she herself or one of them had been receiving direct insult from Likens in the hope this would provoke them into belittling or attacking her. On one occasion, Gertrude held a knife aloft and challenged Likens to fight me back, to which Likens replied she did not know how to fight. In response, Gertrude inflicted a light scour wound to Likens' leg. It's just bullying next
On
level
steroids.
kind. Yeah, on steroids, exactly. Like there's just and like when you hear about all
I
these
think it's beyond
domestic
bullying.
violence cases.
I think that, I'm sorry.
Well, no,
this
but
is
it's
beyond bullying. This is just torment.
No.
This is torture. This is beyond bullying.
Yeah, but I think she's tying her up. She's making her helpless. She's not feeding her. All these things, and then she's saying, "Now fight me." Like I've practically ruined you, and I'm just going to do it a little bit more, and 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 it's like it really does feel like, you know, if high school bullying was allowed to, or primary school bullying was allowed to go out of control, this is where it would get, and it makes me sick. Neighbourhood children were occasionally charged 5 cents apiece to see the display of Likens' body and to humiliate, beat, scold, burn, and ultimately mutilate her. Like,
who charged them? Gertrude.
Gertrude is charging neighbourhood children 5 cents apiece. That's horrific. The fact that children are paying 5 cents to join the frickin', I was going to say party, but that's the wrong word, join the gang. Throughout Likens' captivity in the basement, Gertrude frequently, with the assistance of her children and neighbourhood children, restrained and gagged Likens before placing her in a bathtub filled with scalding water and proceeding to rub salt into her wounds. And that's not a metaphor. On one occasion, Gertrude and her 12-year-old son, John Jr., rubbed urine and feces from Gertrude's 1-year-old son's diaper into Likens' mouth before giving her a cup half filled with water and stating the water was all she would receive for the remainder of the day. On October the 22nd, John Banazuski Jr. tormented Likens by offering to allow her
getting to the end of this, because I can't cope with this much longer. I mean, this is.
Do you want me to skip
the
through?
Worst you've? This is the worst you've.
Have I hit a new low?
Yeah.
I'm gonna.
Oh.
It's just that it goes on and on and on. It's just, I'm surprised she survived. Like, she's just this poor little girl. It's just, oh God.
Okay, so I'll get to this bit.
Clarky.
No, I'll stop telling you about
the.
No, I'll stop it. It's I understand, and it's gone too long. So the following day, we're going to pick up down the track now. The following day, Gertrude Banazuski woke Likens, then forced her to write a letter as she dictated the contents, which were intended to mislead her parents into believing their daughter had run away from the Banazuski residence. The content of the letter was intended to frame a group of anonymous local boys for extensively abusing and mutilating Likens after she had initially agreed to engage in sexual relations with them before they inflicted the extreme abuse and torture upon her. After Likens had written this letter, Gertrude finished formulating her plan to have John Jr. and Jenny blindfold Sylvia, then take her to a nearby wooded area known as Jimmy's Forest and leave her there to die. So John Jr. being the youngest and Jenny being Sylvia's sister. After she had finished writing the letter, Likens was then again tied to the chair railing and offered crackers to eat, although she refused them, saying, "Give it to the dog, I don't want it." In response, Gertrude forced the crackers into Likens' mouth before she and John beat her, particularly around the stomach. I know I said I was skipping forward and that was going to be it, but, it continues. I've got to find an appropriate place to pick up, but the letter is important in the later story. So, by the morning of October 26, Likens was unable to either speak intelligibly or correctly coordinate the movement of her limbs. Gertrude moved Likens into the kitchen and, having propped her back against the wall, attempted to feed her a donut and a glass of milk. She threw Likens to the floor in frustration when Likens was unable to correctly move the glass of milk to her lips, and she was then returned to the basement. Coming down to the end of it, Stephanie and Richard found Sylvia in a bad state, so then they decided to give her a bath and dress her in new clothes. They then laid her on a mattress in one of the bedrooms as Sylvia muttered her final wish that her daddy was here and that Stephanie would take her home. Stephanie then turned to her younger sister Shirley, exclaiming, "Oh, she'll be all right." When Stephanie realised that Likens was not breathing, she attempted to apply mouth-to-mouth resuscitation as Gertrude repeatedly shouted to the children in the house that Likens was faking her death. Likens was 16 years old when she finally succumbed to her injuries.
Sorry, Stephanie said she'll be all right, and the other monstrous bitch said she's faking this.
Correct.
Could I just check? Is that what I just heard?
Sorry, Stephanie didn't say she'd be all right. Stephanie realised that she
thank
wasn't breathing
Oh,
and attempted
thank
to apply
God.
mouth-to-mouth resuscitation as Gertrude repeatedly shouted to the children in the house that Likens was faking her death. So normally, if someone's applying mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, you'd be around trying to support them and continue them to keep going, is my
call the ambulance
view.
for a start.
Not sitting there saying, don't worry about it, she's faking her own death. All right. So the next bit is titled...
This is so disturbing.
Beyond dark.
It is disturbing, I'm sorry.
Very
Should I continue, or do we want to take a
yeah, no, please,
a weller?
please, because
go.
I can't wait to
sure?
sentence these motherfuckers.
Okay, Carla, are you in a position to sentence as well?
I'm trying to get my head around the level of abuse and how long it was sustained, and it's just so macabre. It's really
She was 16 when she passed.
awful. Yeah.
When did this all start, Clarky? So
look,
over a period of months, was it?
Yeah, it wasn't long. It wasn't long. Yeah, it was maybe July through to August or something. So not
really
bad.
intense.
Not a long. Yeah, correct.
No.
I did intend to say at the start of this, and I forgot because of the technical issues. But this is one of those stories where you will not struggle to find the crime because the crime is obvious. No. There are so many different types of it, but I do think the sentencing, I don't know. I found reading this, the sentencing really hard, and I never have a sentence in mind when I come to these. But yeah, God, how do you? Anyway, we're going to go on to the arrest, right? Because this is
this is where I'm really intrigued as to how did Gertrude and her kids, and even Jenny and the neighborhood kids, how did they react? How did what's the story? That's what I'm really intrigued. So in an awful way, at least someone's not suffering anymore. She's now in heaven, shall we say? But what of these other?
I think Jenny
monsters,
was a bit of a victim. Jenny's the younger daughter,
darling. Yeah,
the younger sister.
But I'm intrigued as to how she, what's happened with her. That's all I mean. Yeah,
but I think
I'm really intrigued as to how they handled it. Yeah.
So, Gertrude.
So, what happened?
Just a tiny bit more. So Gertrude initially beat Likens' corpse with a book, shouting "Faker, faker" in order to rouse her. Now, never in the history of the world has a dead body been raised by someone hitting it with a book and shouting "Faker." Like, she soon panicked and instructed Richard Hobbs to call the police from a nearby payphone. When police arrived at her address at approximately 6:30 p.m, she also claimed she had been doctoring the child for an hour or more prior to her death, having applied rubbing alcohol to Likens' wounds in a futile attempt at first aid before she had died. She added that Likens had earlier run away from her home with several teenage boys before returning to her house earlier that afternoon, bare-breasted and clutching the note. You know, the note that she made her write earlier?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Clutching a Bible, Paula Baniszewski, having stated to all present in the household that Likens' death was meant to happen, then glanced in Jenny's direction and calmly stated, "If you want to live with us, Jenny, we'll treat you like our own sister." So it's not just Gertrude, is it?
No.
And this is the problem when you have this matriarchal person who is encouraging everyone to find ways to belittle or abuse someone and probably rewarding them for it. I haven't explicitly read details on that, but I feel like, they're all looking for someone to be a role model for their lives. And here's Gertrude saying, yeah, come on, let's all abuse Sylvia. That'll be fun. And I'll charge you 5 cents because this is normal. This is the problem, because then they start to think that this is okay behaviour too. As previously instructed by Gertrude, Jenny Likens recited the rehearsed version of evidence leading to Likens' death to police before whispering to the officers, "You get me out of here and I'll tell you everything."
Good on you, Jenny.
Go, Jenny.
Right? Doesn't that... that's like a significant changing moment, empowering for Jenny.
I needed that, yeah.
Yeah, I know,
needed
right? Me too. Thank you,
She's
Jenny.
going to get her come and thup it.
Because I was just I was like, they're going to take her down with them, but oh God.
Yeah. But imagine the courage of that, right? I'm a kid,
Yeah.
I'm probably 15 or 14. I've got to tell the police this story, and then I'm going to quickly try to find a way to sneak that sentence in.
They've murdered my sister and they'll be murdering me next. Yeah.
The formal statement provided by Jenny Likens. We almost need some hero music here, I think. The formal statement provided by Jenny Likens prompted officers to arrest Gertrude, Paula, Stephanie, and John Jr. on suspicion of Likens' murder within hours of the discovery of her body. The same day, Coy, remember Coy, our mate?
Yes.
And Richard Hobbs, who I skipped over, but let's just say there was some words being carved into her stomach by Richard Hobbs as well as by Gertrude.
Sorry, you might want to tell us about that. What was that?
Do you really want to hear it? Yeah, no, I won't go into detail, but they carved words into her stomach.
No, but they carved. Oh God! When she was in the basement? Oh,
yeah. So I skipped over that. I'm trying to protect you.
Are
Stop
they
asking me questions.
Oh, thank you. But I'm just trying to get so they're just kids from the neighbourhood or the 5 cent viewing gallery are being able to do that. Oh, charming! Yeah. Wow.
The 3 eldest Baniszewski children, plus Coy Hubbard, were placed in the custody of a nearby juvenile detention centre. The younger Baniszewski children and Richard Hobbs were detained at the Indianapolis Children's Guardians Home. All were held without bail pending trial. Gertrude denied having any involvement in Likens' death. What a lovely soul. And confessed to having known the kids, particularly her daughter Paula and Coy Hubbard, had physically and emotionally abused Likens, stating, "Paula did most of the damage and Coy Hubbard did a lot of the beating." Gertrude further admitting to having forced the girl to sleep in the basement on approximately 3 occasions when she had wet the bed. I don't know how she wet the bed, how she became incontinent. I wasn't involved in it, but I did have to lock her in the basement when she wet her bed.
I was a bedwetter, let me tell you. And I don't ever recall being sent, didn't have a basement, but sent somewhere to sleep. I just would have, that's, what a stretch. Right, just on those 3 occasions, hey?
How good's this person? And all I've got for you is that they're one officer. She became evasive when one officer stated the likely reasons Likens had become incontinent were her mental distress and injury to her kidneys.
Mm-hmm.
Cop that, Mole. This officer is not falling for your shit. And well done, officer. Lacking any remorse, our mate...
Sorry, just
Not
not
defective
a
detective.
defective detective. That's right.
No, that is one effective
Correct.
detective. Yeah,
Correct.
or
Yeah,
effective detective. Anyway, lacking any remorse, Paula signed a statement admitting to having repeatedly beaten Likens about the backside with her mother's police belt, once breaking her wrist on Likens' jaw, and inflicting other acts of brutality, including pushing her down the stairs into the basement 2 or 3 times and inflicting a black eye. John Jr. admitted to having spanked Sylvia on one occasion, adding that most of the time, I used my fists to abuse her. We're back in that abuse space, aren't we? I need to skip over this.
I suppose it's quite hard to avoid.
Oh, I know. It just keeps coming back at me. 5 other children were who participated in Likens' abuse. Michael Munro, Randy Lepper, Darlene Maguire, Judy Duke, and Anna Cisco were arrested on the 29th of October. All were charged with causing injury to a person, and each was subsequently released into the custody of their parents under subpoena to appear as witnesses in the upcoming trial. Okay, so this bit's not going to help in that this is the autopsy, so there's some stuff there.
Yeah.
I'm just trying. So all I can say here, probably without making things a whole lot worse, is that the doctor said a subdural hematoma was the cause of death due to her receiving a severe blow to her right temple. Both the shock she had primarily suffered due to the severe and prolonged damage inflicted to her skin and subcutaneous tissues, plus the severe malnutrition, were listed as contributory factors to her death. Rigor mortis had fully developed at the time of the discovery of her body, indicating Likens may have been deceased for up to 8 hours before she was found. I know that wasn't very pleasing and probably wasn't my intent, but this bit, so although he did note that having been recently bathed, possibly...
To be fair, Clarky, you got to make some time. You know, if you're going to smack someone with a Bible or a book, you got to allow some time for them to recover.
Yeah,
they
the
don't just
Bible
come
trick
back
doesn't work
immediately.
instantly. I mean, she's not Jesus.
Remember
not even
Marguerite
been-
Peter, you know?
She's not
We
even
had to
been
pray
sainted.
over her for days and she didn't come back. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah, that's right.
Oh, so disgusting. Anyway,
It's an excellent point you
sorry.
make. But the doctor also said that because she'd recently been bathed, possibly after death, that this act could have hastened the loss of body temperature and thus sped on the onset of rigor mortis. So it may have been a little bit different. So there was a funeral conducted on the 29th of October. So all happening fairly quickly now. It's like 3 days later. With more than 100 mourners in attendance. Likens' casket remained open throughout the ceremony, with a portrait
Where were
of her
those
taken
fuckers
prior.
when she was being tortured?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but also,
That
if
makes
this
me sick
became
too.
some kind of a public case, there may have been people who just wanted to be there. So I don't think she had a lot of people
Oh, I get
in
it,
and
but
around her.
no.
But like some of those 100 may not have even known her, and I don't know that for fact, but I guess what I'm assuming is that given the lack of support she had in life, the support in death
I think
is
you're
from
probably
people
right.
who, yeah,
And
I think,
isn't that the
anyway.
tragedy? Isn't that the tragedy? Whole bunch of people came out
Well,
when she died. No one
Yeah.
there for when she was alive.
Is it the tragedy or is it the monster of Gertrude? Because some people did try, and she is a monster. There's no two ways about it. She's not a serial killer. She didn't do it to a whole lot of people. She just was horrendous to one person.
And it all started because the money from the father was a couple of days late.
Schmitty, remember exactly right. Schmitty, remember your the conversation about your tenants in the UK who are not paying their rent on time?
Yeah, I'm not about to go and try and beat them and put them in the... I have a basement. I mean...
Send them this story.
You know, maybe some part...
just as a subtle... a subtle... this is what happens to some people.
Subtle hint? Keep it up.
In his
keep it
eulogy...
Keep blocking that
I'm
toilet,
looking...
not cancelling the plumber. Maybe this will happen.
No, I think maybe you should just say I'm looking at getting a new what are they called? Landlord, not landlord, the estate agent, the property manager. And her name is Gertrude Banaszewski.
Oh, okay. My tenants have got a hard time if that's the case.
I'm trying to find humour where there is none. But yeah, no, well, I think they'll pay on time if you did that. Anyway, in his eulogy, the Reverend Gibson stated, "We all have our time of passing, but we won't suffer like our little sister suffered during the last days of her life." He then strode towards Likens' casket before adding, "She has gone to eternity." Her headstone is inscribed with the words, "Our darling daughter." So I think, there's been some really nice things that have happened once she's out from the Gertrude and family and neighbour umbrella cloud, whatever you want to call it. This is not an indictment on the community. It's an indictment on a horrible woman who brainwashed children to do evil things as well. On December the 30th, so 2 months later, the Marion County Grand Jury returned first-degree murder indictments against Gertrude and 2 of her 3 oldest children, Paula and John Banaszewski Jr. Also indicted were Richard Hobbs and Coy, not so coy, Hubbard. All were charged with having repeatedly struck, beaten, kicked, and otherwise inflicting a culmination of fatal injuries to Sylvia Likens with premeditated malice. That sentence I love in the context of this. I don't know if that's a crime in and to itself, but it just describes what happened so well. So 3 weeks prior to filing of the indictments against the 5 defendants, Stephanie, remember Stephanie, who stood up for Sylvia on a couple of occasions, had been released from custody upon a writ of, and here's my awesome Latin, habeas corpus bond, with her attorney successfully contending the state had insufficient evidence to support any murder or culmination of fatal injuries charges against her. Stephanie waived her immunity from any potential impending prosecution while agreeing to testify against her family and any other individuals charged with abusing them and murdering Likens. So she could have got immunity, and she said, no, I'm going to tell you what I know, and I'm waiving my immunity.
Jesus, yeah.
Credit, honestly, I think that's big for someone who's been through all of that. She's going, I might have been part of this. I don't really know. I'm not getting myself off the hook, but I'm going to tell you what happened. That's almost better than
how old was she?
Asking for immunity.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure. So remember, she went to school with with Jenny and Sylvia. So again, it's only a few years either side. She could have been a few years older when they started, but
given that,
it's literally 5 years kind
when
of
she
thing.
died. Yeah, when Sylvia, given that she was 16, that's quite
Tops
impressive.
21 kind of thing. I think it really is. And when you go this dark into a story, you go looking for any silver lining. And I find that, like Jenny and her whispering, this is an incredible moment where someone goes, you know what, I'm better than all of this, and I'm ashamed, and I'm not okay with it, and maybe I'm guilty too, but I'm going to tell you what happened because I know it was wrong. I now know, And I feel like she knew anyway, but she has a voice now and an opportunity to say it without fear of being beaten like everyone else was. So then, at a formal pre-trial hearing on March the 16th, 1966, so, we're now 5 months or so after Sylvia passed, several psychiatrists testified before Judge Saul Isaac Rabb as to their conclusions regarding psychiatric evaluations they had conducted upon 3 individuals, and they all said that all 3 were mentally competent to stand trial.
They weren't mad.
It's all right.
They were just... Sorry. They weren't mad.
What?
They were just evil, evil people.
I literally just... one of my children who just came to school, I took it off, and then my first thing I heard was that charming line. It was very funny.
The trial of Gertrude and Paula and John and Richard Hobbs and Coy Hubbard began on April 1966, April 18, 1966. They were all tried together. And the reason they were all tried together is that the prosecution said that they should be tried together as they were ultimate...
Were they all underage?
No, Gertrude's overage. Paula and...
Oh, no, Gertrude, obviously, sorry.
Yeah, Gertrude, obviously. No. The others would have been probably... I think they might have been a bit older. I don't know, but they would have been close.
Yeah, they were adults. Yep.
The prosecution said that they should be charged with acting in concert in their collective crimes against Likens, and that as such, if each were tried separately, neither judge nor jury could hear testimony relating to a total picture of the accumulation of offences committed. Like, again, I think
that's a fair call.
Smart.
That's a very fair call.
And I like that. Yeah, but I also like that the court went, you know what? Yep. Because lawyers, I think, will do what they can to back their position either way. But I think that makes a lot of sense, and I think it's great that the court went, yeah, we'll do that too. So each of the jurors was questioned, and so if you were the prosecution, you would get rid of any jurors who expressed any opposition to the death penalty.
Do you really
and if
think
you were
the defence really defended on this one, though?
Uh-huh.
Did the defence just go...
No, I do.
Oh, they did.
You tell me once I tell you.
Fucks. Okay, keep going.
Exactly. I know, right? I know.
It's coming.
I know. So if they expressed opposition to the death penalty, they were excused by the prosecution. And if they worked with children, expressed prejudice against an insanity defence, or repulsion regarding the actual horrific nature of Likens' death, they were excused. No. I'm sorry, if you have a moral compass, you can't be a part of this jury.
What?
Who could? I just wanted to say that last bit again because I've had to skip through.
Because my clients are
not that.
No, my clients are so guilty that if you have a moral compass, you'll find them guilty. Therefore, it's unfair. So we have to have...
My clients... I read that the opposite way. My clients are actually so not guilty that if you're repulsed by what they did, you'll actually think they're guilty, and they're just not. Like, it's that to me is super important here. Like, I've had to skip over details of this because the 3 of us sitting here, or the 4 of us sitting here discussing it, can't actually deal with it. And then the defense says, if you show repulsion regarding the actual horrific nature of Likens' death, you can't have a rational opinion. So none of us could be on that jury. Now, I think that's not okay, and that's a problem with the legal system, whereby people who I view as being as normal as anyone else, and I get normal is not a thing, but we're a fair cross section of community, as I'm sure anyone who was horrified by that was. In fact, if you weren't horrified by it, maybe then you shouldn't be on there.
I wonder what Regina Lawless would say.
I know.
All I'm saying is that the whole point of it's so stacked, but we can't have anyone who is grossed out by what these people did, because then they will immediately say they're
I'm
guilty. And that prejudices them against the defense's
I'm wondering
case.
if they even found people who weren't repulsed by it. Like, it just, the whole thing is nonsense.
It's a good question. That's a very good question. Yeah.
I'm
I
good.
do.
Yeah,
I
I'm
do
good.
know though that
don't mind
that
me.
Regina has said that there's now limits as to how many people you can in Victoria, not in 1965 Indiana. So I need to make that distinction very clear.
You can't reject everyone.
I think you get 3 or something. So. And I think, this is the thing where we hear stories about this. And sometimes in day-to-day life, we go, God, there's so many rules and there's so much this and there's so much that. Then you hear a story like this and go, whew, that's why. This would never happen in my life, regardless of rules. But it could. No, what I mean is
it really
that the bullying and the crime committing and all of that would never happen in my life. It could happen to me, but I wouldn't be a part of this. And therefore I go, God, you really need to do that? But yeah, you do. Okay. Here we go. This is closing arguments. I know, right? Far out.
Let's start with the prosecution.
How do I read this and go, I'm going to tell this story, and then get to telling it and go, I can't do this anymore?
This is a pisser. They're going to love this story. It's so funny.
Right?
Anyway.
Oh, God. Do I need another bottle of wine?
I do. I should say we're 3 hours into this podcast already. So for listeners, by the time this is edited, it could be an hour and 20 minutes. Schmitty had something like 3 or 4 before she started. What are you up to now, Schmitty? Second slab?
Counting.
Counting.
I've run out of fingers.
I think I slowed down.
Good. I'm glad.
I slowed down.
And you're clearly
What is
eating
it?
stuff, so I think that's a good sign too.
Having dinner. She's on a dinner.
Sorry.
Eating is cheating.
It's 8:30. I've had 6 cruises. I am having a burger. Yeah.
Good for you, Dale.
That sounds yummy.
I had to. It was self-preservation.
And you know when you're growing up, they say don't speak with your mouth full. I feel that's more because you'll spit your food or it'll look gross, not about the sound. So no one can see this, and you're not in danger of spitting your food over.
Well, it's hilarious, but if you could see me, if you could have seen me, perhaps you would have thrown to me saying, "How many drinks did you have?" You threw to me, and I was suddenly required to answer a question. I was like, oh, God damn it, I've got a mouthful of food. And I can't swallow it that quickly. Contrary to popular opinion. Things not to be like I'm recording, but things to be edited out.
Eat a black-eyed... eat a bag of black-eyed dicks.
See, I didn't say that at all. I said black-eyed peas.
I said that.
Oh,
I said that.
Because you looked at me and said, I said, I didn't say black-eyed dicks. I said
because
peas.
dicks have an eye.
Bad.
So what's grosser than eating a bag of dicks?
A black-eyed one.
If the dicks have got a black eye as well, like...
Oh, the abyss down the penis.
What
Crusty
the fuck's
cum.
caused that?
Rightio.
Crusty cum.
Oh!
You know,
we could have all just let it...
Worse? I'm sorry, you asked the question. I was just answering the question.
Crusty cum.
Oh,
She's not wrong. She's not wrong.
crusty
You're not
cum
wrong.
dicks.
She's not wrong.
It could be gangrenous dicks.
Yeah.
If
That's black.
if we're really trying to answer the question, things go black when they're gangrenous.
Yeah, all right.
And we were talking about Randy Lepper.
Leper dicks. Yeah. They're bad.
I did feel for Randy Lepper. I was thinking before. I was like, it's the kind of thing that you're never going to be able to... Hard to have a brand named after you if your name's Randy Lepper.
It's like
There's a lot going on with that name.
It's like Misty Hyman.
Yeah,
or
there's a lot going on with that name too.
Or Emily Seabomb. Like, you just don't stand a chance. And oddly, both of them are swimmers, and I feel like it was because they were bullied into spending all their time in the water away from people who shamed them for their names. Note to self, if you want to have an Olympic gold medal swimmer, maybe give them a name like that.
It's that or asthma. You know how everybody was like, "Oh, I had to go into the pool."
Yes, exactly.
Asthma.
Asthma. I thought you said, "Is that harassment?" I'm like, maybe it could actually be harassment.
No,
Yeah,
asthma or
Asthma.
Yeah.
Is that asthma?
That's what you say
Asthma.
it in America.
Is that
Like
asthma?
America.
Yeah, asthma. I don't know
God,
why
I'm
it's so different that they
so-
would call it asthma and we call it asthma. Anyway, it is what it is.
The trial of the 5 defendants lasted 17 days before the jury retired to consider its verdict. On May 19, 1966, after deliberating for 8 hours, the panel of 8 men and 4 women found Gertrude Baniszewski guilty of first-degree murder, recommending a sentence of life imprisonment. So Paula was found guilty of second-degree murder, and Hobbs, Hubbard, and John Baniszewski Jr. were found guilty of
That
manslaughter.
was sounding like a band until you got to John Baniszewski Jr.
Hobbs,
Like, was it Miami Vice? What did you say?
Hubbard, and John.
Hubbard, Hobbs, or whatever. It was like Hobbs, Hubbard, and then you go John Baniszewski Jr. It's like, oh, it sounded like a band, like Crosby, Stills, and Nash for a minute. Then it was like, nah. Not
Yeah, no, I think it was more Hobbs, Hubbard, and John with the band, but then I had to
yeah.
because I've clearly slurred a few of the
Baniszewski Jr.
words, so I had to kind of think through that. So it was like, and Hobbs, Hubbard, and John, and then I'm pausing, trying to prepare myself like I'm an Olympic swimmer to say Baniszewski Jr., and that's where the band is. But if they were a band, Hobbs, Hubbard, and John, what would they sing?
Yeah. Leave it with me.
I'm gonna go with, for both Stephanie and Jenny, Search for the Hero Inside Yourself by the M People.
Yep.
Or possibly Heather Small. Heather Small was the lead singer of the M People. But I think that's appropriate.
Oh, you're getting very technical. Did you just happen to remember that?
No, I just know that.
Fan.
No, I'm not even a fan. I just know
He knows stuff
like
like that.
Like you know.
Sometimes you say that your general knowledge is pretty good on that.
No, my
I don't- I
music
think I do
knowledge.
Search for the hero inside yourself. That one?
Yep.
That's the one.
Yep. So my music knowledge is good. My pop culture, like, you know, Kardashian, botched, all of that stuff, zero interest. I can't do reality, but I can do music. So yeah, and
you should
that
be
song,
very proud
I think,
of that.
Thank you. No, I just think that. So what? It touches you.
Touch myself.
I actually meant to say it speaks to you, but I said the wrong thing. You know, I was like trying to say
That's so
I'm
funny.
sorry about that. I know.
Because-
And as it came out, I thought that sounds wrong, and you went, what? And I was like, oh fuck! I meant to say it speaks to you, not it touches you.
No, but I love this because I listened to Clown Passion today, which our listeners by now will have heard a few episodes
As
ago.
you do.
And you said you referred to John Wayne Gacy as Gary.
Gary,
At
Gary.
one point, and
Gary.
you said when he got back from the hospital, and like, so we had this whole moment where we were going, Gary went to the hospital. What? Who the fuck's Gary? Yeah. And so yes, my music
it
knowledge
touches you as if it
touches
speaks
me.
to you.
Ugh. I touch myself. I feel like it's a divinal song.
I meant to
isn't it,
say
Louis?
that song, you know, I meant to say, what I was thinking was that song is, you know, they're using a lot of motivational clips for, you know, athletes and the Olympics, whatever else. And I meant to say, does it speak to you as a sort of a motivational piece? But I got it all wrong and I said, touches you.
We all know when
and then I just
athletes want
banged my head on the
motivation, they
microphone.
touch themselves.
I'm falling apart. If you could see me, you'd know. I just hit the microphone with my hand.
Blame the COVID.
Oh.
Blame the COVID, exactly.
Oh, blame the COVID.
Yep. Did you lose your
I do have
sense
a
of
bit of a mild
smell?
sweat
No. Did you have the
Never had
fever? No. Did your microphone fall apart? Yes.
I've banged my
If
head
you've
on my
experienced
microphone.
any of these symptoms in the last 14 days, please don't podcast with
Isolate.
us.
Yeah.
But I love that you have, and I love that you've nailed it. Fuck, where was I? This is just...
You're in a conviction
I don't know.
somewhere.
Sorry, darling. We're in a conviction.
No, it's not.
somewhere.
I know. I need to be apologising. It's just traumatic. We're in the convictions.
Oh.
Blah blah blah. Did I get to any of them? Yes.
Second
I
degree.
did.
Second degree.
We got to the band of Hobbs,
No.
Hobbs, Hubbard, and John. Banaszewski Jr.
Jr.
were found guilty of manslaughter. Upon hearing Judge Rabb pronounce the verdicts, Gertrude and her children burst into tears and attempted to console each other, as Hobbs and Hubbard remained impassive. On May 25, Gertrude and Paula Banaszewski were formally sentenced to life imprisonment. The same day, Richard Hobbs, Coy Hubbard, and John Banaszewski Jr. each received sentences of 2 to 21 years to be served in Indiana Reformatory. In September 1970, the Indiana Supreme Court reversed the convictions of Gertrude and Paula Banaszewski on the basis that Judge Saul Isaac Rabb had denied repeatedly submitted motions by their defence counsel at their original trial for both a change of venue and separate trials.
Fuck off.
Jesus.
Ugh.
Carla, any thoughts on that?
They reversed.
Happy to go with Schmitty's?
Well, yeah, I'm just, what's the word I'm after? I can't speak anymore. No, I'm not going to say another word because I honestly cannot speak. I know what word I want to say, but it's not coming out.
Too many Diet Cokes?
Not even. Just upsets me greatly.
I'll continue. This ruling further stated
Yeah.
that the circumstances regarding the prejudicial atmosphere created during their initial trial due to the extensive news media publicity surrounding the case impeded any chance of either appellant receiving a fair trial.
Mm-hmm.
Remember when we spoke about there being 100 people at the funeral?
Mm.
Yeah.
It's clearly a very publicised case, and people who were there perhaps may not have known Sylvia.
That's interesting.
Anyway,
That's
the pair
really
were
interesting
retried
because
in 1970.
Sorry, Paul, but when it came to one of Australia's most famous cases tried in the media, everyone hung poor old Lindy Chamberlain. You know,
Lindy,
quite the opposite happened here. Oh, mistrial. No one was calling that for poor old Lindy. Anyway, just.
Well, no, but I don't think. I don't think
Lindy.
Yeah, no, but I don't think
Mm.
this is the appeal isn't up to the public, right? And so I don't think the public here went where this disgusts us. It's the legal system that has said this is not okay because she hasn't had a fair trial.
100%. But no Australian legal system called out this is unfair because we've tried her by media. Anyway, that's the parallel I'm calling.
Correct.
Is that
Lindy
Chamberlain
that's right.
was tried by media,
and you're spot on with that.
But in America, they said, "Oh, we can't do that," which I understand. I actually do understand, even though we think these people are as guilty as sin.
But also, also.
But who said that? Did you say can't hear the state?
Well, no. So there was an appeal. So then they went back to court.
Okay,
and
I thought it was the state.
We should.
Okay, it was it. Okay.
Yeah, no. So they said we should retry it. But Schmitty, to your point too, Lindy Chamberlain was found innocent in the end, albeit over way too long a period. And
yeah, it's not quite the same.
No. But what I'm saying is that it's not the same at all, and it's not okay. I'm saying I just want to say that she did get found guilty. Yes. There was no immediate retrial, but eventually we got to the truth.
But only because, sorry, listeners, but only because there was new evidence that was brought to light, not because of a mistrial, not because the media of Australia prosecuted her before any judge could or any jury. And
Yes.
that was the
Yeah, no,
terrible
correct. But we did get
miscarriage
to-
of justice. Yeah, but what if no one had ever found the matinee jacket? Anyway.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm on board with you. I'm not arguing that point. I'm just saying that eventually we got to some fact. Here, it's a different story because they actually were both guilty. So that they were retried in 1971. On this occasion, Paula opted to plead guilty to voluntary manslaughter rather than face a retrial. She was sentenced to serve a term of between 2 and 20 years. Like, honestly, this is a thing in Indiana at this time. I'm not sure if it still is now.
Somewhere in Middle America.
Exactly, counting crows. So she was sentenced to serve a term of between 2 and 20 years imprisonment for her part in Likens' abuse and death. Despite twice unsuccessfully having attempted to escape from prison in 1971, she was released in December 1972.
Joking.
Nope, I'm not joking. Gertrude, however, was again convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison. Over the course of the following 14 years, Gertrude became known as a model prisoner. We've heard this before. Not about Gertrude, but about other people. She worked in the prison sewing shop.
Did she find
and
God?
well, she didn't. But no,
She
sorry.
didn't find God. Okay.
Sorry. How did I miss that? Because you know my stance on that. Let me continue. She worked in a prison sewing shop and
They just often do.
and was known as somewhat of a den mother to young female inmates, becoming known to some within the prison by nickname Mum. Sounds like an episode of Prisoner or Wentworth.
That's
By the
not
time
dissimilar to what she lorded over the neighbourhood, though. That's what bothers me about that.
Correct.
Yeah.
There's
She's
something about the
She's doing
power.
it all again.
It's a similar dynamic. Yeah, similar
But
dynamic to her household and her street, the neighbours' kids.
But
and
Carla,
stuff. Oh my
here's the
God.
bit you're fishing for. By the time of Gertrude's ultimate parole in 1985, hold that for a second, we'll come back to that. She had changed her name to Nadine Van Fossen, a combination of her middle name and maiden name, and described herself as a devout Christian.
It's
Snaps
like there's a
for her.
textbook case. You need to tick a couple of boxes. That's always on the boxes. You never hear of a prisoner who leaves and they're reformed and doesn't really just throw that one in for good measure.
They're a devout
part and parcel.
atheist, and therefore they get released
Oh,
early.
it's not how that would work for them. Yeah. Oh well, there we go. This just continues to disappoint, doesn't it? Really.
Yeah, no, but I'm gonna, for our listeners now, I'm gonna show everyone. Oh, sorry, everyone, as in Schmitty and Stuart and Carla, a picture of Gertrude. Can you see her there? I think that photo actually looks like a monster. I think Disney would not see her as the as what's the name, Cinderella. They would see her as the ugly stepsisters or the mother, or
She's certainly the wicked witch of the west, not the
she
north.
fed the apple to Snow White. All those things.
All those sorts of bad things.
Do you see that?
Yeah.
She's got a face on her like a smacked ass.
I actually find this significant in today's terms, not in the 60s. I get it, but in today's terms, I can actually see and possibly judge this woman by her looks. And I know that's not okay, but it kind of makes sense when you see this. Do you see that, or is it just me?
Have I got the picture
I
yet?
don't know. I think she's just wearing a hairdo of the time and an outfit of the time, and she looks like she's been rode hard and put away wet. Which she probably was, because she pushed out 7 children by the time she was like 15. I know, I exaggerate.
I've never heard that saying before, Schmitty. What does it say? She looks like she's been put away wet.
Yeah, I just think she's a monster. And can we just get on to putting her in a trial by wine type scenario? Because
yes,
I'd like
but I am
that,
going to
please.
say, challenge to me to remind me for when we're actually coming up to releasing this. I'm going to try to find a Disney character that matches that photo. Okay, so
Looks like one of the ones from I can picture from The Rescuers. Sorry.
The Rescuers, good. I'll look at that too, because I don't know that one. But again, listeners, if you have other photos that are appropriate once you've seen this, share them. So this bit's called the aftermath. Following her release in 1985, Gertrude relocated to Iowa. She never accepted full responsibility for Likens' prolonged torment and death, insisting she was unable to precisely recall any of her actions in the months of Likens' prolonged and increasing abuse and torment within her home. She primarily blamed her actions upon the medication she had been prescribed to treat her asthma. Carla, that was for you.
Asthma.
Asthma.
Oh, asthma. Sorry, I got it wrong.
Asthma.
Not asthma.
Not asthma.
Gertrude lived in relative obscurity in Laurel, Iowa, until her death due to lung cancer on June 16, 1990, at the age of 61. I'm kind of okay with karma in that space. Reflecting upon the news of Gertrude's death and the issues raised pertaining to her sanity at both trials, John Dean, a former reporter for the Indianapolis Star, who had provided extensive coverage of the case, would state in 2015, "I never thought she was insane. I thought she was a downtrodden, mean woman." Dean also likened the case to William Golding's novel Lord of the Flies, 100%.
Ooh.
Although he has stated Likens' increasing physical and emotional abuse was not a result of children going wild, it was children doing what they were told. After her 1972 parole, Paula Baniszewski assumed a new identity. She worked as an aide to a school counselor for 14 years at the Beeman Conrad Liscombe Union Witten Community School. Having changed her name to Paula Pace and concealing the truth regarding her criminal history when applying for the position, she was fired in 2012 when the school discovered her true identity. That's 40 years.
Wonder how
Not
that
too
happened.
bad.
Yeah.
Bloody ridiculous.
Sorry, 14 years. I must say, I
wonder how they.
1, 2, skip a few, 99 on 100 in true trial by 1 cent.
Started treating some of the children the way she treated Likens.
Yeah, correct.
Really
Paula
bit of a giveaway.
reportedly lives in a small town in Iowa. She is married and has 2 children. The baby daughter, to whom she had given birth while being tried in 1966, who she named after her mother, was later adopted. So she actually has 3 children. She named one after her mother. What? The murder charges initially filed against Gertrude's second eldest daughter, 15-year-old Stephanie, were ultimately dropped after she agreed to turn state's evidence against the other defendants. I'm okay with that. Shortly after their mother's arrest in Marion County Department, the Public Welfare placed Marie, Shirley, and James Baniszewski in care of separate foster families. The surname of all 3 children was legally changed to Blake in the late 1960s after their father regained their custody. Richard Coy and John each served less than 2 years in the Indiana Reformatory before being granted parole on February 27, 1968. Richard Hobbs died of lung cancer on January 2nd, 1972 at the age of 21.
Jesus.
No, I'm going with karma. I don't think
Okay.
Jesus had anything to do with that. I think that's karma. But he got the most severe karma out of everyone. So karma hasn't actually worked in the scale that I would like it to. But, let's keep Jesus out of it and go with karma.
Rightio.
Following his 1968 release from the Indiana Reformatory, Coy Hubbard remained in Indiana and never attempted to change his name. Throughout his adult life, Hubbard was repeatedly imprisoned for various criminal offences and on one occasion being charged with the 1977 murders of 2 young men, although largely due to a fact the chief witness to testify at his trial had been a convicted criminal of the murders. He was acquitted of this charge. Shortly after the January 2007 premiere of the crime drama film An American Crime, he was fired from his job. He died of a heart attack in Shelbyville on June 23rd of that year and died at the age of 56. So, not great. John Jr. lived in and I'm getting a tone in my voice now because I'm just sick to fucking death of this story. Apologies, everyone. I hope you're still with us. John Jr. lived in relative obscurity under the alias John Blake. He became a lay minister. That sounds gross. I don't know what that is, but it sounds wrong.
Something with the church?
George Pell, I don't know.
That means
frequently hosting counselling sessions.
But it says there,
Ordained minister.
like not a professional. Yeah.
Denominational. It's not about laying people.
Non-ordained.
Sorry, but it's like a lay person.
That's
You know what I
right,
mean? Yeah, someone who hasn't. Yeah. It's like
Sorry, my focus was on the wrong word.
No qualifications as such, I guess. Not sort of qualified.
Right. Gotcha.
Became a yakety yakka.
So several yakety yak, don't go back. Several decades after his release from the Indiana Reformatory, John Jr. issued a statement in which he acknowledged the fact that he and his co-defendant should have been sentenced to a more severe term of punishment, adding that young criminals are not beyond rehabilitation and describing how he had become a productive citizen. He died of diabetes on May 19, 2005 at the age of 52. There's a bit of karma going on there too.
Fucking
52
hell.
is not old. Prior to his death, he had also occasionally spoken publicly. Oh, jeepers! Diabetes, not a heart attack.
I got it in there. I got it in there.
The Sylvia's Child Advocacy Centre is officially dedicated to the memory of Sylvia Likens, founded in 2010 in Lebanon, Indiana, and initially named after the Boone County Child Advocacy Centre. This non-profit organisation was renamed in Likens' honour in 2016, with the executive director stating, "The most important thing we can do is tell kids they are hurt and we are listening." This was something no one did for young Sylvia. Her family is thankful, though it doesn't have to be that way anymore. She did not die in vain. She died a horrific death, and because of that, we're hoping that another child can be saved. This Child Advocacy Centre was formed...
I was wondering what her parents thought.
Yeah. This Child Advocacy Centre was formed with the objective to assist child victims of abuse and neglect, to minimise the ongoing traumatic effects experienced as a result of their ordeal, and to undertake a relentless pursuit to prevent child abuse in both Boone and Montgomery County. Professionals at Sylvia's Child Advocacy Centre work in concert with both law enforcement and the local Department of Child Services. Staff also conduct forensic interviews and provide assistance with legal procedures, as well as mental and medical health referrals. That's a sunny end to my story.
Goodness.
A lot of this, is stuff that Sylvia would have benefited from and possibly would have avoided her end. But it's nice when you see examples of the world changing that are positive and as a result of something negative. Therefore, I'm done. Schmitty, Swanee, over to you. Do what you will with this.
Can I just ask you? There was a turn of phrase that you just used. Was it relentless pursuit?
Schmitty, you've calmed down a lot. Have you drunk and then eaten and now you're
just angry? I'm just angry.
Swanee, this is the calm before the storm. This
right.
I have been
the eye of the cyclone.
It's not the raging bull.
Shit is about to get real. You know when
that's a lot of fire.
Those toys that you wind up and they're really, really cool in your hand.
She's gonna go off,
and then you let them go, or like a fucking firecracker.
Yeah.
Schmitty, over to you.
I have been waiting for Paul to finish the story. I've just been trying to not interrupt it so that I could get to this point.
As has everyone.
Yeah, well, it's like, this is an in-depth story, and I'm just going to do my best to shush and keep stum until I get my chance. So, relentless pursuit. So
now's your chance.
Sorry, Swanee, are you okay if I sentence ahead of you?
Oh, please do, because you know what? I've got no idea what to do. This is always.
I've had a lot of thought about this because I've been angry from about the first 15 minutes in.
Some time ago now.
Even when I edit it, it will still be some time ago. So her name's Likens, and I know it's spelt like the little plant. But I'm gonna.
It's not spelled like the plant on Wikipedia.
No, it's not. At all.
L-I-C.
It's
No.
not. It's L-I-K. No, it's
All right,
L-I-K-E.
point is it's not
No.
spelt like
Yeah, yeah.
lichen as in
Not-
wolves, is it? I'm going to go down rabid
Well,
wolves.
it's not spelled like lichens as in moss.
Okay, fine.
Okay, yeah. I don't know. Go.
I'm going down the path of rabid wolves because the lichen were
Right.
like
I like it.
the lichens were, the word that werewolves come from, lichen. So I'm going down that path.
All right.
Oh.
And the relentless pursuit. I like that. So I'm going to sentence.
How's it spelt? How's it spelled?
How do you spell lichen? Lycan. Originally, I was going to put them all in a basement and let them all rot. And then I thought, well, no, there's a relentless pursuit, and her name rhymes with lichen, as in Lycan, being something to do with werewolves and shit. So I figure they are going to be
I like it.
every single person, apart from Jenny and maybe Stephanie. Maybe. Was it Stephanie?
Yeah, no, keep Steph.
I'm going to call her Steph then.
Please.
Maybe Steph.
Yeah,
and
no.
Diana. Because Diana has also had some tragedy in her later life. And she's the older sister. She didn't really do anything wrong, except maybe neglect her younger sisters. But everyone else involved in this who were actively involved in the horrendous torture of this girl are going to be perpetually ripped apart by lichens, i.e. werewolves, and then
Perpetually.
or moss. That's fine. Moss is probably
Talk
more
to me more about
uncomfortable. Might take
perpetually.
longer. Like I get ripped apart and then
Yes.
I wake up again
eaten
in
by
the ground,
fungus.
eaten by lichen. The next day,
Yes.
I wake up.
I just want you to describe
have to
that
go
more.
through it again.
Don't skip over that detail.
It's very
Yes.
slow. If I'm going to be eaten
Yes.
by moss, it's going to take some time, but that's okay. Maybe I'll bury them alive with enough fertilizer around them so that the moss really takes off and just slowly, subsumes them and eats them while they're still living. Oh, God, that got really dark. Anyway, lots of nastiness because I think that is deserved. That's my sentence.
Okay.
Nice. I like
Well,
it.
Nice.
Carla,
Yes.
are you going to
Okay,
sentence them to 50 lines
If
on the
anybody's
blackboard?
been hanging around hours and hours and hours for my sentencing, I'd be very surprised, seeing as it's not my strong point, and nothing will change today. It will continue to be a weak point. And I feel very uncomfortable with this topic. I find it just horrendous. I mean, sexual abuse, torture, child abuse, it's just not a particularly nice area to be talking
I've
about,
got to
is it?
say,
So-
we don't really cover
trying
a
to
lot
keep-
of
that to you,
nice
but you're
areas.
right.
But this is
No,
particularly
so-
heinous, yeah.
It's really hard, this one, isn't it? I mean, they're all hard for different reasons. But where this sort of really gets my goat is this idea that Gertrude essentially had a group of young people, including her
Disgusting.
family,
Mhm.
sadistically, bully and torture this poor girl. And it was really her power over them and enabling that to happen and continue to happen, to sort of create this sort of Lord of the Flies kind of situation within the street, that, the fact that she was charging people, I mean, it beggars belief. So I don't have anything particularly clever to say, but what I would say, if we were going to do a trial by wine sentence, I would only put that same group of people into a situation where it was still Lord of the Flies, but where the power kept changing. So they never really knew who was in charge and if they were the ones who were going to be bullied at any given time.
Oh, you're clever.
Because I find that that's where it starts to unravel, when they think that there's someone leading and everybody else following, and everyone thinks they have to be part of that, and then it becomes something that
It's
is entirely,
diabolical.
I'll say unhealthy, but I don't mean unhealthy. I mean way beyond that. But imagine if that power dynamic, no one knew when the sands were shifting, and they didn't know who was going to be in charge at any given time. They were all fearful for their life and whether they'd be the next victim. That's the only way that I could see that I could come and add anything at this point, because I
think that was... That absolutely nails it, and I'm disappointed that I just went with some
Is that all
slow
right?
decomposition by moss. Anyway, going on.
Moss. Yeah, that's kind of, I know it's not particularly macabre, but
No,
that's,
Carla.
that's the
Carla,
only sort
I
of
think
justice
that
I could think
is...
for these
That's
people.
gold.
I think that's your best sentence yet.
Ever,
And
yeah.
So I sat here...
Wouldn't be hard. Would not be hard. Would not be hard.
Oh, no. But honestly, so I wondered whether we could come up with a sentence that we should put in Trial by Wine World. And I wondered if we could come up with it,
It's the
would
Lord
we
of the
call
Rings
it-
ride, but you just don't know who's in charge. Yeah.
Well, no, Lord of the Flies, not Lord of the Rings, please.
What did I say? Lord of the Rings. Sorry. Again, that's so Carla. Sorry.
I am a
Gary.
Lord of the Rings
I'm in
fan.
hospital.
Gary.
Yeah,
I cannot
Gary.
help myself.
Gary, stop going to hospital.
You'll when you listen back to these in years to come, you'll go, "Oh, that was where the dementia started." You will know. I'm telling you.
No, it's not.
It's all here for
That's
everyone to hear.
That's
You're too young
We'll
for
go.
that.
That's when we know we loved her.
Yeah.
Oh God,
So-
Lord of the Rings.
So I was going to say, I was wondering, is
Sorry.
there a could we add something to Trial by Wine World? And if we could
we can.
we call it?
Of course we can.
No. Of course,
The developers are always after
but-
new ideas.
So
It's your world.
What I mean is, would I want to add another element to Trial by Wine World for this? And if I did, would it be called Sylvia Likens World?
No.
Or would it be called Gertrude
No.
Banaszewski World? And I don't want to name a world after Gertrude Banaszewski, and I
Yeah.
don't want to make Sylvia's memory about all of this stuff.
Yeah.
But Carla,
Yeah.
kind of in what you just said, I feel almost, and I'm not 100% okay with it, but I feel almost okay with going, well, this is about Sylvia then, and Sylvia's revenge. And Sylvia, from what I can gather, is not a vengeful person, so wouldn't be vengeful anyway. And I'm looking at a picture of her as I say this, and I can tell you we're not making eye contact, but I feel like she's nodding at me. Like she is not nasty.
She's comfortable
not
with it, is she?
vengeful. No, I actually think she's not comfortable with it. But
Oh, okay.
but sometimes people who are not comfortable with stuff need people who are comfortable with stuff to have their back. And so I think your punishment is kind of bang on. And we need to find a way to do it in Sylvia's memory without making Sylvia the vengeful one, because she's clearly not that. And so maybe it's, Friends of Sylvia World or something like that. Because she is innocent and she needs to stay innocent and she doesn't need to be tainted with any of that. But, 100 people turned up to her funeral, and I feel like there's 100, if not 100,000 more who would go, we need to actually get justice. So I want to stick with your punishment for those people. That the 2 to 21 year rule, I want to call out. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't know how you can sentence someone to that and then just, I don't know.
Give them less than that.
Leave it open to fate and give them less
And give
to
them
that.
less than
but,
that.
But like, what is going on here? And we discussed this with John Wayne Gacy, where, you get a sentence, but, whatever. You do some good stuff, and we're all okay with that. So
You've learnt macrame, you can get off earlier.
Who cares about your crime? And from the perpetrator's point of view, that's great if they then become a valuable member of society. And I don't know if anyone did in this instance, but from the victim's point of view, like, are you kidding me? I'm super challenged by it, and I do struggle to draw the line between Gertrude and everyone else. And I do struggle with the legal system that says 2 to 21 years, because to me it should be, 2 to 4, 4 to 6, whatever it is, 15 to 20, but not 20-year flexibility that ends up being less than 2. And that's probably all I can add, because it's been a very, very big podcast, and I am
sure that's
tired
all 4 hours
and angry.
You sure that's? Yeah.
But hang on, we forgot about.
Oh no, I could
But
get.
wait, there's more. No, just kidding.
Yeah, I know, right? Sorry, I've gone on too long. Let's call it a day right now.
And I'm holding Paul's hand way too tight.
Okay. All
I'm
right.
angry.
So
I'm angry.
that is a case that does justify us to be angry. Carla's sentencing was amazing. Well done, Swanee. I
Yeah,
feel
well done,
sad
Carla.
that I've just got a little bit of moss growing on people, but I think my moss will be quite nasty after some time. And I'm not quite sure after
know,
all that
right?
what really you were saying there, Clarky, except that you're just unhappy. But I'll take it. And let's just double down on Carla's sentence because it was exceptional.
Can we also, though, just throw an appeal out to our listeners to say, this has been 4 hours of us podcasting. They'll probably hear an hour and a half or 2 hours. They'll be way better at dealing with this. Yep. Please share with us what you think should be
the physical challenge.
A better sentence, because I'm exhausted.
And you've cut a lot out of it.
I've got nothing left.
Oh, I know you've cut. I was having a look in the background. So it is
so awful.
Seriously, there's so much to it, and the actual crimes themselves, and then what's happened afterwards with the different sort of sentencing, the different trials. I'm like, it is disgusting. It's just one disappointment, and I use that word knowingly. I know it's
after another.
It's like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, you bit off a massive case, and you gave it a good chew there, Clarky.
Absolutely.
And very well presented, really good.
Thank you.
I don't know really what else to say. I feel like we're all a bit exhausted after that, but we will rally again.
Absolutely.
It's okay.
I wish there was a way that I could delete this from my memory, but I just can't. And
it's
so,
okay. I'll come up with something even more disgusting
because we're a team.
Yeah, fair enough. And that's right. We share the load, but I'll come up with something more disgusting next time, and then you'll be able to forget this one.
Please don't.
No, this is topping it as far as I'm concerned. So anyway,
this is my grossest ever.
Yeah, and on that note, miss you already.
Thanks.
Love you long time.
Good job.
Thanks, guys. You're lovely.
Ciao.
Good chat.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Ciao.
Villain music was brought to you by Les FM at pixabay.com, and our hero music was brought to you by Gioli Fazzeri at pixabay.com. Thanks for listening to Trial by Wine. You can contact us at trialbywine@gmail.com. Please rate, review, and subscribe to Trial by Wine on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to support us, you can become a patron at www.patreon.com, Trial by Wine, or visit our website www.trialbywine.com to donate to us. Your support will help us cover many more cases and apply wacky sentences. We really appreciate you listening and hope you tell everyone about us. Our cover art is by John Christo and music is by Beauchamp from pixabay.com.